Welcome back, everyone, to the Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday, and I'm excited because we get a great update from participatory budgeting right here with Aaron and Aleyanna. Welcome, y'all.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Yeah, I'm so glad y'all could be on today. And, this is something that we have been a part of since the beginning and really want to stay with the process. So I appreciate y'all coming on today to tell us more about the Seattle People's Fellowship Program. But I'll start with you, Aaron, because you have a dynamic role there. Tell us what your role is and why you are there at Participatory Budgeting.
Yeah, hey, my name is Aaron Carr. Originally from Detroit, Michigan. We've been here in Seattle for about 8 years now. And my role with the Participatory Budgeting Project, one thing that's really cool is that they are a national nonprofit, but they've hired local organizers to fill the real important staff roles, right? And so my staff role in particular is to support in bringing youth into the process. So the process, if people don't know, actually engages people all the way from ages 10 and up, right? And so we can have like the youth and the perspective of very young people in this process about how we spend $27 million. And my role is really special that I get to like figure out how we do that. Because sometimes we don't always engage youth and people don't always have strategies. They don't know how to reach them. They don't know, where to go or who to talk to. And so I'm really there to kind of navigate those situations, like talking to schools, talking to community-based organizations, and figuring out how we can get the youth involved and get them into spaces where they can share their ideas, their perspective.
Well, this is so necessary. And honestly, I love that there's a whole person in you dedicated to bringing youth in, because sometimes that becomes an afterthought. And I'm so glad that participatory budgeting is saying we need to really put this at the forefront. And so you are the Seattle People's Fellows Program Manager, right? I hope I got all that right.
Yeah.
And that means that you get this opportunity to really be direct in communities and particularly with youth. That's amazing. Aleyanna, you are one of the People's Fellows, right?
Yes.
So tell us more about how you are incorporating, your opinions into this process, and what does it mean to be a fellow?
Yes, of course. So our youth fellowship is basically a way to get youth engaged, because it's one thing to say, oh, we want youth here. It's another thing to actively make sure that they feel welcome, help them with their ideas, all of that. So we're just there to spread the word and make sure that they feel comfortable speaking up and sharing the ideas to be a part of the process. For me, I'm a creative. I love the arts. I've been in the Seattle art scene for a minute. And the older I get, the more I want to see safe spaces, and the more, I get tired of complaining about the same old things. I want to see a change specifically for the Black community. And so I joined because I was like, oh, this is a way to get people involved. Like, this is funding going directly into the community. Like, this is a way for us to make a change and a youth to make a change. And I'm starting to get older. I turned 21 in a couple months. I want to be able to set things up so that people even younger than me can feel comfortable and like don't have to deal with the same things that I dealt with growing up. So that's why I started.
Well, one thing is for certain, that when young people see themselves in positions of power and exaltation, it means that they really have a way to feel welcome. And, when we talk about bringing youth in, I've always talked about this in terms of any type of process that's quasi-governmental. You have a lot of distrust, Aaron, I'm sure that you've been experiencing that as you are hitting community-based organizations and community groups. A lot of folks are like, man, I'm going to tell y'all what to do. And are y'all going to do it? How are you dealing and navigating with building that trust in an intentional way?
Yeah, the first part of it, like the cool thing is that like I'm a consultant. Outside of this, like I'm an organizational consultant, and I'm thinking about that, right? It's like a part of it is like we definitely have to be there to receive that information, but we also have to advocate in certain systems for things to go certain ways. So we're also talking to certain like folks in government and talking to folks at PB and being like, this is what the community is asking. They're concerned about this. Like, how are we funding people's ideas who are not organizations, right? So then I'm like, okay, what does that look like in the process? Like, at what part of the process are we ensuring that even if you don't have a nonprofit, you could still possibly get this funding? Because these ideas need to go directly to the people. So there's a lot of advocacy, there's a lot of communication within, PB and also within the government that we have to do. But especially in terms of like, after we do that advocacy inside and then internally, it's also about actually like listening and like taking notes and being accountable, right? Because there's going to be so many opportunities that we get to hear from community, and it is easy for us to be like, yeah, you said it. Thank you for sharing, you know, but I got to take down notes. I met someone at the kickoff and they were like, hey, like, you know, I don't know how to do computer stuff, but I want to be a part of it. So I'm like, I got to call you and we're going to fill out this application together, right? Like that's the level of organizing we're doing. It's like, I'll call you. I'll make sure I wrote down your idea and I'll make sure you get to input it. I'll make sure you'll know when the next event is and I'll text you and say, are you coming? You know, like that's how we're doing it, people to people.
Yeah, that's really important, that kind of approach, particularly in Black communities. Axiology, as Dr. Nichols so taught me so eloquently, is that our axiology is member to member. That's how we build. That's how we grow. And historically, that's how our communities and our societies and civilization have actually built itself up, particularly in Black communities. So I appreciate that. Now, also understand this funding is really here to fill voids, right? It's a layer of repairing past harm. So to be able to direct it into the communities, into ideas that will do that is very essential here. Aleyanna, when you think about, you know, the ways that young folks have been able to respond to this opportunity thus far, what is some of the response you're seeing and how they're receiving this information?
One, just shock at being included, especially younger kids. A lot of times, you know, I remember being little and going to events with my parents and being like, okay, like when I get older, I'll have a say so. But like just realizing, oh, wait, like we get to put in our ideas too. And then just a lot of ideas like, oh, well, this is what I could do. Okay, well, can you come to the school? Like, can you come speak here? Let me tell my friends about it. Really taking advantage of networking. And even if you don't know someone, your friend might know that person, and just making sure that people know that, like, basically meeting people where they're at. And just, if you know someone who can do something, tell them about it. So just really feeding in to networking, really feeding into community and making sure that they know, no, we want to hear you. It doesn't matter how you sound. You don't have to be wordy. You don't have to do the most, but like, what are your ideas? We actually want to hear you. What Aaron was saying, just taking time to listen. It's been really, really cool just seeing how excited they are to help and be a part of things.
Yeah, this kind of process is, I think, what's needed in so many different layers of government. And really, when you think about centering, you know, voices who are normally not centered at all, that's a special way of approaching this layer of the work. But it also means that what you get in the end and what you get as a return is a amazingly wide ranging amount of solutions that maybe folks have never even thought of. And honestly, when we are able to share this opportunity with young people, you'll really hear some things that were like outside of the box. Because I think as we get older, we start boxing ourselves in. We start compartmentalizing in ways that have said, well, this is what society has deemed is valuable or important, so that's what I'm going to say out of my mouth, versus a young person who doesn't have that boxed in mentality. So, you know, for both of y'all, you know, when you think about some of the main goals of this process in particular, we know we want this money to come in to Black, Indigenous communities, those who have been the most impacted by divestment and past harm with racial oppression and so much more. When you think about your role being so essential to that, I really want to hear from both of you how you take that in, that level of responsibility. Aaron, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's like Aleyanna said, it's an honor. You know, like it's like, especially like last month was like Black History Month, and like, you know, like we came such a way as a people. Like we've come from this to the point where we're making these kinds of decisions on millions of dollars. And so like, I just get inspired. And for me, I really see it as an opportunity, not just to get this money, but to build power and resiliency over time. So a big part of the role that I'm having, and as a manager, I'm trying to build coalitions of youth organizations and youth who are passionate about this, so they get to know each other. So it's like, oh, like, can the VERA project talk to Youth Speaks a little bit more? Can like this youth advisory council meet with this youth advisory council and figure out what they do right and how they can build on that? A lot of organizations that I'm reaching out to, they're like, oh, we're trying to, you know, create these youth advisory councils and like learn how to involve them in our budgeting anyway. So we want to just learn, right? And so I think that one of the goals and the things that I'm really passionate about is like that learning piece of like, let's share best practices. Let's talk about a possibility where in the future, youth are always a part of this decision, whether it's 27 million from the government or it's a few thousand for your organization. How did you bring them into the process? These are the steps. How do you like iterate this process in other ways, right? And so that's something that that's kind of how I deal with it and navigate it, is that I'm like really like, how do we use this as a long-term solution too? Like not just in this moment and in this year where we're gonna get this money that's gonna fill in some of those gaps, but like really in the future, how do we start to show up differently for each other and show up differently, especially for youth, as we involve them in important decisions.
Oh, that's so powerful and so true. Aleyanna, this responsibility, like how do you receive it? How have you been able to really settle into it? Because this is going to be iconic, right? It's like the biggest participatory budgeting process of any other city. So we're really also setting a model, setting a tone. How does that resonate with you?
Well, first of all, I just want to give thanks to Aaron. Like being able to work with them has been amazing. Off the gate, I was trained so well. Like we had time to just talk about what does it look like when you're on the field talking to people? What does it look like doing social media? What does it look like doing all that? So I was really prepared, really, really well, really set up for success. So I just want to give thanks to that. And for me, something that's important to me as a music artist, as a poet, is bringing creatives into this conversation. I am so excited to bring creatives into this conversation, similar to youth. And if you think about it, creative youth, we think outside of the box. And a lot of the times, there is a universal factor about art that really brings people together and is a way of communicating things that can be hard to communicate. And I'm lucky enough to have partnerships at both Youth Speaks and Totem Star. And so I'm super excited to bring those organizations in and just use my connects within that. So when I think about it, I just think about, wow, like I have the chance to make things better. And with Black History Month ending, going into Women's History Month, I'm a Black woman. So I'm so excited to really see us thrive. I really feel like Black women, queer Black people, all of those things, we tend to be left out of the conversation. And as creatives, we really tend to be left out of the conversation. So I'm just honored that I get the chance to really connect with those who might otherwise feel unrepresented, who might otherwise feel unseen, because it's hard going up into these places. And if I can be there to level and be like, yo, I see you, like, get up there, you got this. Like that makes me so happy. That honestly makes my inner child smile. So I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for other Black women, other queer Black people, and I'm also doing it for my inner child. Like this is beautiful work, and I'm so honored to be a part of it.
Well, it sounds like y'all are off to an amazing start. Of course, for me, I just want to stay engaged and informed. I want y'all to know this is a space where you can come and share updates and share opportunities for community engagement. Of course, I got to give you time to look right there in that camera, Aaron, and let folks know if they want to be a part of this process. If you haven't been able to talk to them yet, but they want to be heard, they want to be listened to, how do folks tap in to make sure that their voice is a part of this amazing process? Look right there, let them know.
Yes. So if you are interested in being involved in the process, one cool way to get involved is to follow us on Instagram at Seattle Youth Fellowship. And there, like, you could click on our link tree in our bio, and it has a ton of different ways to get involved in what we're focusing on right now. So one thing is to fill out our community accessibility survey, our check-in survey is what we're calling it. And it's an opportunity for us to find out from youth ages 10 all the way to 21 is like, what do y'all want to see in this process? Like, we thinking about putting together a concert? Do y'all want to have a buffet at dinner? We got money, we got funding, we're going to do things that are fun. So fill out that survey, let us know what you want to see, and we're going to create that as fellows. We're also putting together some youth summits happening on March 4th and March 10th. And so you can also click on that link tree and find out ways to actually like meet other youth who are passionate, who are change makers, who want to share their voice and their feelings and their story. And Aleyanna, you can tell them the phone number for them to call. We actually have a hotline that you can text and also get information.
Yes. So if you can text change to 206-839-6884, that would be wonderful. You can definitely let us know all of your ideas, where you would even like us to show up, and you can start the process. Definitely stay along with our path.
Yeah, and just message us if you have any questions. If you're like, I don't know exactly what to do, I'm just excited, or I know of a youth who I want to bring in, but just DM us, connect us, and
We
we'll
have
take it from
funding.
there, right? Like especially for you adults in the community who know a bunch of passionate youth, please let them know about this opportunity, right? Because this is the outreach part. It's hard. Youth don't always know that these processes are for them, and sometimes us as adults, we also have to ensure that we're supporting that accessibility. So I'm talking to you adults especially. If you have your child and you're like, my child has these ideas, they're always telling me stories, and I want them to be a part of it. Like, tell them, come to the Youth Summit, follow us on Instagram, get involved. We really want to hear your voice.
Yeah, there we go. And it leads us to the Youth Summit. Of course, we got to make sure people know how to tap in. That's coming up soon, right? Give us the details on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So our first Youth Summit is actually tomorrow. It's going to be a virtual Youth Summit. We are super excited to host it. We just want to create spaces where, one, youth are educated about the process and about the huge role that they get to play. So it's mainly there. We're still at an outreach part. So we're just trying to make sure that people know and they can share their ideas. So we're really excited to host this. We had an event last week for everyone. This is centered specifically for youth. So if you are a youth, if you know a youth, please bring them. We want to hear your voice. We want to help make sure you get to be a part of the process.
And you can also, by registering for that, you get entered into a $25 gift card. So definitely, if you're like, hey, that's also a benefit, please go ahead and follow us on the Instagram, text us. You can also find the information if you text us, that'll come to and register for that event tomorrow, March 4th or March 10th. Yeah.
Amazing. You guys got opportunities. I'm gonna make sure my 17-year-old taps in, and my other son, he's 9, so he doesn't make the cutoff, but I might have to hear his voice and his ideas and bring them to y'all. Thank you so much for being here. Know again, this is a space for y'all to share information and insight. So grateful to have both of you a part of this phenomenal process. Thank you both.